In a world unlike anything we know today, vast sheets of ice stretched across the land, and the air carried a relentless cold that never seemed to fade. Resources were scarce, and silence hung heavy over frozen plains. Imagine waking in a world where the horizon is white in every direction, where the wind carries needles of ice and the silence feels almost alive. There are no cities, no roads, no warm lights glowing in the distance, only endless cold, shifting snow, and the quiet determination to survive another day. Tonight, we travel back tens of thousands of years into the vast stillness of the Ice Age, a time when survival depended on patience, cooperation, and an intimate understanding of nature's rhythms. Let your mind drift as we step gently into this ancient world. Long before the landscapes we know today took shape, enormous sheets of ice stretched across continents. Glaciers crept slowly over valleys and plains, grinding mountains into fine dust and reshaping the surface of the earth. The climate was harsh beyond modern experience. Winters seemed to linger without end, while summers offered only brief moments of thaw, just enough to soften the frozen ground before cold returned once more. Across these frozen regions, the air carried a constant chill. Even during daylight, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long blue shadows across snow-covered plains. In this world, life adapted in remarkable ways. Grasses and small shrubs clung to survival in windswept tundra. Moss and hardy plants formed thin carpets across the soil, providing nourishment for the animals that roamed the land. And roam they did, vast herds moving slowly across the open plains. Woolly mammoths, with their curved tusks and thick coats of fur, traveled in family groups. Steppe bison grazed on sparse vegetation, while reindeer followed ancient migration routes carved into memory over generations. Predators moved quietly among them. Wolves, cave lions, and other hunters adapted to the cold. For early humans, this landscape was both home and challenge. They lived in small groups, often numbering only a few dozen individuals. Each day required careful attention to the environment, watching the weather, tracking animals, and conserving precious energy. There were no permanent comforts. Survival depended on flexibility. When storms approached, the sky would darken with blowing snow, and winds would sweep across the plains with a force that could chill exposed skin within moments. Shelter was essential. Natural caves offered refuge where they could be found. Within these stone chambers, families gathered close together, sharing warmth and protection from the relentless wind outside. But caves were not always available. In open regions, people constructed shelters using materials provided by the land. Hides stretched over frames made from wood or bone. Thick layers of fur blocked the wind, creating small pockets of warmth within an otherwise frozen environment. Inside these shelters, a quiet rhythm of life unfolded. Tools were repaired, clothing was sewn, food was prepared with care. Conversations, perhaps spoken softly or expressed through gesture, carried knowledge from one generation to the next. At the center of this life was fire. A small flame flickering in the darkness transformed the shelter into a place of comfort. Its warmth eased the cold, while its light pushed back the long shadows of night.
Fire also offered safety. Many predators avoided its glow, allowing families to rest more easily as the wind howled beyond their shelter walls. Obtaining fire required skill and patience. Sparks struck from stone or created through friction had to be nurtured carefully, coaxed into flame using dry grasses or bark. Once lit, the fire was guarded closely, a precious companion in a world where warmth meant survival. Clothing played an equally vital role. Garments crafted from animal skins provided insulation against freezing temperatures. Layers of fur trapped body heat, while carefully stitched seams reduced the entry of cold air. Bone needles, small but precise tools, allowed for detailed sewing, enabling clothing that fit closely and functioned effectively. Even footwear was thoughtfully designed, protecting feet from frostbite during long journeys across snow and ice. Food was never guaranteed. Hunting required cooperation and planning. Groups studied animal movements, learning seasonal patterns and migration routes. Sometimes hunters would follow herds for days, moving quietly across the landscape, waiting for the right moment to approach. Large animals provided valuable resources, not only meat, but also fat for energy, hides for clothing, and bones for tools. Nothing was wasted. When plant foods were available, they supplemented the diet. Roots, seeds, and occasional berries offered variety, though such resources were often limited in the cold environment. Water, too, required effort. Snow could be melted over fire, while frozen streams might be broken open to access liquid beneath the ice. Every task demanded energy, and conserving that energy was a constant consideration. Despite these challenges, life was not solely defined by hardship.
Moments of quiet connection likely filled the evenings. Around the fire, stories may have been shared, accounts of past journeys, lessons learned, or observations about the natural world. These shared experiences strengthened bonds within the group, reinforcing cooperation essential for survival. Children learned by watching and participating, gradually acquiring skills needed for adulthood. Elders, with their accumulated knowledge, guided decisions, advising when to move, where to hunt, and how to respond to changing conditions. This social structure provided stability in an otherwise unpredictable world. As seasons shifted, groups often migrated, following animals or seeking areas with better resources. These journeys required careful planning, balancing risk with opportunity. travel across icy terrain demanded endurance. Snowfields stretched for miles, sometimes broken by frozen rivers or wind-swept ridges. The landscape could appear endless, yet subtle signs, tracks in snow, changes in vegetation, distant landforms, guided navigation. Over time, humans became deeply attuned to these signals, developing an intimate understanding of their environment. The Ice Age was not static.
Glaciers advanced and retreated slowly over centuries, altering habitats and influencing the movements of both animals and people. Adapting to these changes required observation and flexibility, qualities that became hallmarks of human survival. Even in this harsh world, creativity emerged. Simple carvings, decorative objects, and perhaps early forms of symbolic expression hint at a desire to create meaning beyond immediate survival. Such expressions remind us that humanity has always sought connection with each other and with the world around us. As night settled over the frozen plains, stars shone with exceptional clarity. With little atmospheric moisture, the sky appeared vast and luminous, a silent canopy stretching endlessly above. For those living beneath it, the night sky may have offered both guidance and wonder. Listening to the soft crackle of fire and the distant whisper of wind, early humans rested, gathering strength for the challenges of another day. Their resilience allowed them to endure conditions that would test even the most prepared among us today. And through countless generations, this resilience shaped the course of human history. As we continue our journey, we will explore more deeply how these communities built shelters, mastered fire, crafted tools, and developed strategies that allowed them not only to survive, but to thrive in one of the most demanding environments Earth has ever known. For now, imagine the quiet stillness of that ancient world, the slow rhythm of breath in the cold air, and the gentle glow of fire against the darkness. Let the story carry you peacefully onward. Picture a quiet camp at the edge of a frozen plain. Outside, the wind moves softly across the snow like a distant whisper. Inside, a shelter made of hides and ancient bones, a small fire glows steadily, casting warm light on faces gathered close together. Tonight, we step inside these shelters, into the quiet heart of Ice Age life, where ingenuity and patience turned a hostile world into a place of refuge. Let yourself settle into the warmth as the story unfolds. For Ice Age communities, shelter was not simply a convenience. It was a boundary between survival and danger, a carefully constructed space where warmth could be preserved and the harshness of the environment held at bay. In regions where caves were available, they offered immediate protection. Their thick stone walls shielded inhabitants from icy winds and heavy snowfall. Within these natural chambers, people established temporary homes, arranging sleeping areas, storage spaces, and hearths. But vast stretches of tundra offered no such refuge. Here,
humans relied on remarkable ingenuity, building shelters using materials gathered from their surroundings. One of the most fascinating forms of construction involved the use of large animal bones, particularly those of mammoths. After a successful hunt, the massive bones were carefully arranged to form circular frames. Tusks curved overhead like natural arches, while ribs and long bones created structural supports. Over this framework, thick animal hides were stretched tightly, forming walls that blocked wind and trapped precious warmth. These dwellings were surprisingly effective. Layers of fur acted as insulation, while snow sometimes accumulated around the exterior, adding an extra barrier against the cold. Inside, temperatures could remain significantly warmer than outside, even during severe weather. Within these shelters, daily life unfolded with quiet purpose. Fire occupied a central place. The hearth was often positioned carefully to allow smoke to escape while maximizing warmth. Maintaining the fire required constant attention. Embers were preserved overnight, and fuel was gathered whenever possible. Fuel sources varied. In areas with limited wood, dried grasses, animal fat, and even bones could be used to sustain flames. The ability to adapt fuel sources demonstrated a deep understanding of available resources. Around the fire, people cooked meals, repaired tools, and shared stories. The gentle glow created an atmosphere of comfort, softening the starkness of the outside world. Clothing maintenance was an ongoing task. Garments endured constant wear from cold temperatures and physical activity. Skilled individuals used bone needles and sinew thread to mend tears, reinforcing seams to ensure continued protection against freezing winds. Crafting clothing was a meticulous process. Animal hides were cleaned, scraped, and treated to make them flexible. Techniques such as smoking helped preserve the material and improve resistance to moisture. Layers were arranged carefully, fur facing inward to trap heat, outer layers shielding against snow and wind. Footwear received particular attention. Insulated boots, often lined with soft fur, protected against frostbite during long journeys across frozen terrain. Daily routines followed the rhythms of the environment. During periods of favorable weather, groups ventured out to gather fuel, check hunting grounds, or scout new areas. Travel required awareness. Storms could develop quickly, and navigating the landscape demanded experience. Inside camp, tasks were shared among members of the group. Some prepared food, slicing meat into strips for drying or cooking. Others shaped tools from stone or bone, carefully refining edges for efficiency. Children observed and learned, gradually acquiring skills through participation. Elders contributed knowledge accumulated over many seasons, advice on migration patterns, weather signs, and safe routes through the land. Storage of resources was essential. Food surplus, when available, was preserved through freezing, drying, or smoking. Meat might be stored outside in naturally cold conditions, protected from scavengers by careful placement or simple barriers. Animal fat was especially valuable, providing a dense source of energy during times when food was scarce. It could also be used as fuel for lamps, extending light into long winter evenings. Tools were crafted with precision. Stone tools began as carefully selected pieces of flint or other suitable rock. Through controlled strikes, artisans shaped blades, scrapers, and spear points. The process required patience and skill, each strike carefully planned to achieve the desired form. Bone and antler offered additional materials. They were shaped into needles, hooks, and handles, expanding the range of tools available for daily tasks. Hunting equipment was maintained with care. Spears were inspected, bindings tightened, and points sharpened. Preparation increased the chances of success and reduced risk during encounters with large animals. The social environment within shelters fostered cooperation. Shared responsibilities ensured that essential tasks were completed efficiently. Communication, whether through spoken language, gestures, or shared understanding, coordinated efforts and strengthened relationships. Evenings often brought moments of quiet reflection. After the day's work, individuals gathered near the fire. The soft flicker of flames illuminated the interior of the shelter, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow. Outside, the vast landscape rested beneath a blanket of snow, while inside, warmth and companionship offered comfort. Music may have played a role as well. Simple instruments, perhaps bone flutes or rhythmic tapping, could have accompanied storytelling, adding a gentle cadence to the night. These moments reinforced bonds within the group, nurturing a sense of belonging essential for emotional well-being in an isolated environment. Weather remained a constant presence. Blizzards could last for days, limiting movement and requiring careful rationing of supplies. During such times, shelters became sanctuaries, protecting inhabitants from the relentless cold. Patience was necessary. Waiting out storms involved maintaining routines, conserving energy, and monitoring resources. The ability to endure periods of confinement demonstrated resilience and adaptability. As seasons changed, adjustments were made. In slightly warmer periods, shelters might be modified or relocated. Mobility allowed groups to respond to shifting animal movements and environmental conditions. Knowledge of the landscape guided decisions. Certain areas offered reliable resources, while others posed risks. Memory and experience shaped travel routes, ensuring efficient use of energy. Despite challenges, there was a sense of continuity. Generations passed down techniques refined over thousands of years. Each improvement, a more efficient tool, a better method of preserving food, a sturdier shelter, contributed to collective survival. This accumulation of knowledge represented one of humanity's greatest strengths. Within the shelter, small details reflected care and intention. Sleeping areas were arranged to maximize warmth, often with individuals resting close together beneath layers of fur. Personal items, tools, ornaments, or small carvings were kept nearby. Such objects may have held practical or symbolic significance, connecting individuals to memories or shared traditions. The shelter was more than a physical structure. It was a center of life, a place where challenges were met, relationships nurtured, and knowledge preserved. As night deepened, the steady crackle of fire blended with the distant sound of wind moving across the plains. Breath formed faint clouds in the cool air, rising gently before fading. In this quiet environment, rest came naturally. Sleep restored energy needed for the demands of another day, another journey across the frozen world. And while the environment remained unforgiving, the ingenuity displayed within these shelters demonstrated humanity's remarkable ability to create comfort even in the harshest conditions. In the next part of our journey, we will step outside once more, following hunters across snowy landscapes, exploring strategies that allowed them to secure food, navigate vast territories, and cooperate in ways that ensured survival. For now, imagine the warmth of the fire, the soft rustle of hides, and the peaceful stillness of a winter night long ago. Let the calm carry you onward.
The night has deepened. The last colors of sunset have long since faded, and now the world rests beneath a vast velvet sky, scattered with quiet stars that seem to shimmer like distant memories. Somewhere beyond the reeds, a lantern flickers softly, waiting. And as you settle deeper into comfort, you begin to notice how everything, the water, the air, even your breathing, moves in a slow, peaceful rhythm, as if the night itself is gently rocking you toward rest. You continue along the shoreline, your footsteps slow and effortless. The earth beneath your feet feels cool but welcoming, like a familiar path you've walked many times before, even if you cannot quite remember when. Small lanterns now appear more frequently, resting among stones and grasses. Their light is not bright, but warm, a soft amber glow that seems to hum quietly, like a distant lullaby carried on the breeze. Each lantern feels like a marker, not guiding you somewhere new, but reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. The lake beside you is calm as polished glass. Stars reflect on its surface so clearly that it becomes difficult to tell where the sky ends and the water begins. You pause for a moment, noticing how still everything feels. Even the air seems to breathe slowly. A gentle wind moves through the tall reeds at the water's edge. They sway in soft waves, brushing against one another with a sound like quiet whispers, secrets shared between old friends. You listen without trying to understand. There is no need to interpret, only to hear. Somewhere far across the lake, you hear a single ripple, perhaps a fish surfacing briefly, or a drop of water falling from a leaf.
The sound fades almost as soon as it appears, leaving behind an even deeper silence. You notice how your shoulders feel lighter, as if with each step something unseen is gently slipping away, worries dissolving like mist in moonlight. Soon, the path widens into a small clearing by the lake. Here, dozens of lanterns are arranged in a wide circle, their soft lights forming a gentle halo around a patch of smooth grass. At the center sits a simple wooden bench. You walk toward it slowly. The air here feels especially calm, as though time itself has slowed to a peaceful pause. You sit down. The bench is warm, as if it has been waiting just for you. Around you, the lanterns flicker in quiet harmony, their glow reflecting in the lake like tiny constellations drifting on water. You breathe in deeply. The scent of night flowers, soft and slightly sweet, drifts through the clearing. As you sit quietly, you begin to notice faint shapes forming in the reflections on the lake. They are not clear images, but gentle impressions, like memories seen through soft fog. A feeling of laughter, a moment of warmth, the simple comfort of being safe. They drift across the water slowly, never demanding attention, only offering a quiet reminder of peaceful moments. You watch them without holding on, like clouds passing across a wide sky. Near the edge of the clearing, you notice a small figure moving slowly among the lanterns. Not surprising, simply present. They carry a long candle lighter, pausing occasionally to gently adjust a lantern's flame. Their movements are calm and unhurried, like someone who has all the time in the world. They do not speak, but you feel a quiet understanding, as though their presence is simply part of the night's natural rhythm. After tending to the last lantern, they nod softly in your direction before continuing along a path that fades into the trees. The clearing feels complete. You stand again and walk toward the lake's edge. The water laps softly against smooth stones, creating a slow, steady rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing through the quiet night. You crouch down and let your fingers rest lightly on the surface. The water feels cool and comforting, sending gentle ripples outward. Each ripple spreads slowly, carrying with it a sense of calm, as if the lake itself is sharing its stillness. When you lift your hand, droplets fall back silently, disappearing into the vast calm. You look up. The stars seem brighter now, countless points of soft light stretching endlessly across the sky. There is no hurry here, no expectation, only the quiet presence of a night that has existed for ages, watching peacefully over everything. A shooting star glides silently across the horizon, fading gently into darkness. You feel a quiet sense of wonder, simple and light. Returning to the circle of lanterns, you notice a soft blanket resting on the grass near the bench. You lie down comfortably. The ground feels steady and supportive beneath you, the lanterns casting a warm glow around your resting place. Above, the stars shimmer slowly. Your breathing naturally deepens, in and out, each breath softer than the last. The sounds of the lake, faint ripples, distant reeds, the quiet hum of night blend into a gentle background melody. You feel as though the night itself is gently holding you, like a vast, peaceful presence offering calm without words. The lanterns flicker softly, their light steady and reassuring. Nothing needs to be done, nowhere to go, only rest. As you drift deeper into stillness, the boundary between waking and dreaming begins to soften, like the horizon dissolving into mist. Far across the lake, one final lantern slowly lifts into the sky, floating upward like a quiet promise. You watch it rise gently, its glow growing softer as it joins the stars above. And as it fades into the night, you feel a gentle sense that something peaceful awaits just beyond, a place of complete rest. The journey continues.
Tonight, as the wind outside grows quieter, let us return one last time to that small village resting beneath a sky of pale winter stars, where the long season of hardship is slowly, almost imperceptibly, beginning to loosen its grip. There is a feeling, difficult to name, that comes near the end of a hard winter. Not quite relief, not yet joy, but something softer. A quiet knowing that the earth is turning and that somewhere beneath the frozen soil, life is waiting patiently. Let your breathing slow as we step back into that distant world. Inside the timber cottage, the air still carries a faint chill, but it no longer bites as sharply as it did in the deepest weeks of winter. The fire burns low, steady, no longer fed in desperate urgency, but in gentle habit. Ash settles softly like gray snow within the hearth. Around the room, small signs of endurance remain. Bundles of herbs hang drying from rafters, their scents faint but comforting. Thyme, sage, and a little wild mint saved from autumn's last warmth. The wooden table bears the marks of long use, shallow cuts and worn edges polished by countless hands. On a bench near the wall, a wool cloak lies folded, patched many times, each stitch a quiet story of care. Outside, the night feels different. The wind no longer howls through cracks and corners. Instead, it moves slowly across the fields like a tired traveler finally at rest. Snow still covers the ground, but its surface has softened, rounding at the edges, touched by the slightest hint of change in the air. Some nights, the villagers notice something subtle. The darkness lifts just a little earlier. Morning light, though pale, lingers a moment longer upon rooftops. These small shifts do not go unnoticed by people who live so closely with the rhythms of the seasons. They feel it, not only in the sky, but in their bones.
In the cottage, the family prepares for sleep, as they have done through countless nights. A pot of thin broth warms near the coals, its gentle steam rising slowly. They eat quietly, savoring warmth more than flavor. Food stores are low, but careful rationing has carried them through. There is gratitude in simple things, a dry place to rest, a shared fire, the steady presence of familiar faces. After the meal, tasks are small and unhurried. A mother mends a sleeve by firelight, needle moving slowly, thread catching soft glimmers from the flames. A father checks the door latch, a habit born of long months of caution. A child traces shapes in the thin frost that lingers at the edge of a window shutter, imagining stories in the patterns. Conversation drifts softly. They speak of small hopes, of planting when the ground allows, of repairing fences, of seeing green return to the hills. Their voices remain low, as though not wishing to disturb the fragile peace of the evening. Beyond the village, the forest stands quiet, its branches heavy with snow that has settled into stillness. Animals move carefully now. A fox crosses a narrow path, paws pressing gentle prints into the soft crust. An owl watches from a high branch, feathers fluffed against the cold, eyes reflecting faint starlight. Even the streams, once locked beneath thick ice, whisper faintly beneath their frozen coverings, a hidden promise of movement. Winter is not yet gone, but its harshest edge has dulled. Back inside, the family prepares their sleeping space. Straw is fluffed, wool blankets shaken gently. They settle close together, sharing warmth as generations before them have done. The fire is banked carefully, embers glowing like distant stars within the hearth. There is comfort in routine, in knowing that night will pass as it always has. The sounds of the cottage soften, a quiet sigh, the faint crackle of settling wood, slow breathing, steady and calm. As you listen, imagine lying there among them, wrapped in layers of wool, feeling the gentle warmth radiating from nearby bodies, hearing the reassuring presence of others resting peacefully. Outside, the sky stretches vast and clear. Stars shimmer with a cold brilliance, undimmed by any artificial light. The moon rises slowly, casting a pale glow across the sleeping village. Snow reflects that light, turning fields into soft silver plains. Chimneys stand like silent sentinels, thin wisps of smoke drifting upward, dissolving into the night. In such moments, people of that time often felt a quiet connection to something larger than themselves. They did not speak of it in grand words. It was simply understood in the turning of seasons, in the steady return of dawn, in the knowledge that endurance was shared by all living things. Winter had tested them, and still they remained. As the night deepens, dreams begin to weave gently through sleeping minds. Dreams of warmth, of sunlight on open fields, of rivers flowing freely once more. Perhaps a memory of laughter during harvest or the scent of fresh bread on a summer morning. Even in the hardest seasons, the mind carries seeds of comfort. Hours pass, slowly, quietly. The moon crosses the sky. The fire settles into a soft bed of glowing coals. In the stillness before dawn, the world feels suspended, balanced between what has been and what is yet to come. Then, almost imperceptibly, the eastern horizon begins to pale, a faint glow, delicate as breath upon glass. Morning approaches. Inside the cottage, someone stirs gently, not from alarm, but from the subtle change in light sensed even through closed shutters. There is a quiet moment, that soft awareness of waking, when thoughts remain slow and peaceful. The new day begins as countless days have begun before, with patience, with quiet strength. Outside, the first bird calls softly, a tentative note carried across the cold air. Another answers. These small sounds feel like whispers of renewal. Frost sparkles faintly as the early light touches the ground. Smoke rises once more from chimneys, thin and steady. Doors will soon open. Footsteps will mark familiar paths, life continuing in its gentle rhythm. Winter has not vanished. Snow still lies deep. Cold still lingers. But something has shifted. The long night, though still present, no longer feels endless. And in that subtle change, there is comfort. As we leave this village, imagine standing quietly at its edge, looking across the fields, breathing in the crisp morning air. Feel the calm, the resilience, the quiet dignity of lives shaped by patience and care. Their world was not easy, yet within its simplicity there was a steady peace, a rhythm that asked only for endurance and offered quiet moments of rest in return. Let your mind drift now, like snow settling softly upon the earth. There is nothing to do, nowhere to hurry, only the gentle passing of time and the steady warmth of calm. Imagine the fire glowing softly, the village resting, the slow turning of seasons continuing as it always has. You are safe, you are warm, and like the long winter slowly giving way, you can simply rest and allow sleep to come, naturally, gently, in its own time. Soft closing. And so, beneath the quiet sky, where stars fade into the first light of morning, the story settles into stillness. May your rest be deep and peaceful, like a calm winter night finally at ease. Good night.